So I have a story to tell. So I happened to attend this workshop in 2021 where MixMaster Ghazi was one of the speakers or one of the like board producers, and he was actually demonstrating how he produced and mixed Activate by Stonebwoy and then Davido. So he had talked about EQ, compression, everything that the pros do to get these songs to hit the industry standard for maximum competition and quality control. And just when he was about to like sum up or wrap up everything that he's done, one guy asked the question like, "You, can you just give a little bit of how you do your mastering?" And then he made a very, very crucial point in the explanation. He was like, whenever he's done mixing, he just exports the wave file and then starts mastering. Now, what he literally means is something like this. Let's say this is the song. Whenever he's done mixing, he was mixing in Logic, by the way. Whenever he's done mixing, he just exports the wave and then go for it to master the song. And I mean, at that very instance, I activated the defense mechanism and I was like, no, I don't think Master Ghazi was right. See me, Sectormadeit. I'm saying Master Ghazi is not right. But yeah, I mean, at that moment, coming from all these tutorials, reading extensive research and all of that, I sort of disagreed with what he said in terms of actually having headroom to master. And I remember watching his mix pass closely, and he was already clipping. I mean, he was just clipping by a few decibels. And normally, when you listen to the pros, they tell you to not mix or never exceed 0 dB when you are mixing. And then I remember another guy asking the question like, "You, I see clipping in your mix pass," and it was like, yeah, whenever you are clipping or whenever you are exceeding 0, you can just drop the fader down and then send it for mastering. Honestly, in my head, that didn't sit right with me because I thought it was a genuine mistake that your man was ignoring or had failed to realize. I mean, whatever he does, Davido likes it. Whatever he does, Stonebwoy likes it. I mean, he's been working with Stonebwoy for quite a lot, so I know very well that it has to be quality for Stonebwoy to actually be working with him for that much. And me personally, he has mastered one of my songs before. Big shout out Mikey Cox. He mastered this song, Omale Chanwa. So, I mean, I just thought a mistake, so we can just move on. But me, on the other end, I'm never gonna mix and exceed 0 on my mix bass. I'm never gonna do that. So yeah, practically I've been doing that for quite a lot. But there was this one time that I was mixing in the studio and then Mufasa Wave happened to be around. I didn't know he was watching me all this while. So I think probably like 80% through the mix process, he was like, "Yo, but I steady you never the mix reading meters." And that hit me quite a bit because coming up as a beginner mixing engineer, I would always have my meters on. Like I'm checking my VU meter, I'm checking my correlation meter, I'm checking my RMS meter, I'm checking my LUFS meter, like everything possible to avoid distortion or clipping on the master bass. I'm checking that. But I don't know when this thing started, but I've realized that I'm not even really watching meters anymore. I'm just mixing with clear instincts and punch. So analyzing that, I just came to realize that there's this one important major improvement in the digital audio workstation world, which is really improved the quality and the precision in terms of bit depth or dynamic range in this mixed world. And I thought I should just demonstrate it. So this is a more scientific tutorial than like an art or mixing and mastering tutorial. So what I mean by this bit depth is, by default, FL Studio and all these like major 2026 DAWs right now, their main internal playback engine is working in a bit depth of 32-bit floating point. And in as much as it's a very, very scientific or computative figure, you just have to know that in this kind of workstation or world that we have, there is no way you are clipping. So I think getting to know this is the reason why it answers Mufasa's question. Like when I'm mixing, I've stopped using VU meters, I've stopped using analyzers and all of that. Most of the time I'll be doing stuff like this, and then yeah, I'm checking my Yulin meter, checking if I'm clip distorting at a point. I'm really using meters, but over the years I've stopped really focusing on this process because it's kind of like it kind of like stops you from being creative. I mean, I've watched tutorials or I've learned from other pro engineers who are actually mixing excessively loud, and they don't really care about the meters until it's very surgical. And what I mean by surgical is when your plugin is calibrated around -18 or -8, whatever the figure is, as long as you are staying within that calibration, all other signals that come out of the plugin into the main engine are never going to clip. Now, what actually makes MixMaster Ghazi 100% right, especially when he said you don't even have to drop the fader, you can just export it at 0 and then move with all the clip distortion in it, is because you are working in a 32-bit floating point, and I'm repeating because it's a very important thing to take note of. They're already clipping, but he's only right to an extent, and I'm clarifying it because you don't always put this in your mind and just do any kind of export. You are only going to export this if you are exporting into a 32-bit floating point wave file. Very important, because as soon as you export into a 24-bit or a 16-bit, your quality is reduced. You are going to get distortion. You are going to clip the sound. So now let me play safe here for demonstration purposes. Now let's put a gain plugin here. You get it? So now let's put a gain plugin here. Let's make it like let's drop the gain to like -10. Right? I'm going to export this into, like, let's say a mix down, and let's call it 32 bits, right? Let's call it 32 bits for demo. So yeah, 32 bits. And then let me enable master effects, and then yeah, let's export. So we can load up a new session and then drop this mix down 32 bits inside. And now this is what we have. So this is our new wave signal, right? So assuming this was the file we are going to master. Now to further on demonstrate how crazy that idea was, is let's excessively crank up this signal, right? So I'm going to crank this to the max, and that's plus 36 decibels. I'm going to crank this volume up, and then I'm going to crank this volume all the way up. So this is like no coming back type of distortion. You get it? Yeah, let's assume that, because now everything is white here. I want to duplicate this file, right? So let's duplicate this file and make this one rather unique, a file. So this one will be our base reference. Let me reset this figure, right? So this is our base reference, and this is our distorted signal, right? This is how the distorted signal is going to sound. Turn down your volume, okay? I beg you. Oh, let me help you out by just turning this fader down to maybe -20, right? Let's go. That's too bad. You can't really listen. Let me play once more. It's very, very distorted. So now let me export this into new files, right? So let's say we are exporting this, and this is what Master Ghazi said when you are done mixing the song. So assuming I'm done mixing the song, and then I had this kind of distortion inside, and then I'm supposed to export it, right? So let's export this song to wave file. Let's do this let's do this 32 bits. And then yeah, and yeah, 32 bits. Let's make sure there's no insets working here. So yeah, we have our file. Let's do the same kind of exports. Let's do it in 16 bits, right? So let's do 32 bits. Let's do 16 bits, right? Let's change the wave depth to 16 bits. Let's go. And then let's do a final one of 24 bits, right? So yeah, let's do 24 bits. So all these stereo files are coming back into the project, and we are almost getting the same kind of waveform, right? So yeah, this white paper thing. So first things first, let's normalize this one for demonstration purposes. So yeah, when we normalize this is what we have. We don't need this anymore because these are our new files. So I can delete this track, by the way. Yeah. So in comparison, let's normalize the 32 bits and watch what happens. We are getting back this original signal. As bad as it was compressed and exported, we are retaining every dynamic range that we had before. So this is it. And if I'm supposed to reverse the polarity, I'm supposed to get close to 0. So let's reverse the polarity and then play the song. Okay, yeah, so there's no signal. That literally means whatever information is here is the same information here, in as much as this one was heavily distorted. Now when I turn off normalize, you're getting back your distortion, but you get it. You get it. So yeah, that means this file is the same as this file, ideally. So we have been able to retain 100% of every bit of information that was heavily distorted inside this exports back with the 32-bit floating point file. And that was when that is what proves Master Ghazi right. Because when you export and then you've even distorted a signal, when you go into another workstation, as long as you are internally working and your depth is 32 bits floating point, you are never going to distort. You can just turn the signal down and then you are going to get back all your signals. You get it? Yeah. Now with the 16 bits, same here. Let's normalize. And then we didn't get anything. We really are not getting the signals back. So let me just drop this to, we are really not getting our signals back. With the 24 bits, let's normalize. And we didn't get our signals back. It only worked for the 32 bits. And coming back to this kind of analogy with 24 bits and then 16 bits and then 32 bits, that is where I also prove myself right for having a defense mechanism against Master Ghazi statements that you can just export the file. Because what is wrong with that statement is when you are exporting the file, you must make sure that you are exporting in 32 bits. If you export in 24 or 16, yes, in as much as I had to exaggerate the boosting, like I'm boosting about plus 60 decibels of gain to actually get this kind of distortion. Not every producer knows this. And for a weird reason, you may be distorting or clipping a signal which you are not aware of. So to be on the safer side, always export your 32-bit floating point project in a 32-bit floating file when you are going to master. At worst case scenario, at least 24 bits can do you some safe zone or kind of like the sweet spot. But as long as you are exporting in 16 bits, just make sure that you are done with the final mixing and mastering, and you are very, very sure that whatever clip distortion and everything that is going to be added to the song is a very, very intentional process. But as long as you need further processing, always render or export at 32-bit floating points, and that's going to save you a lot. I think my Fender Studio has opened or is done loading, and then I can do one final demonstration. Thankfully, Fender Studio can work in 64-bit floating points, so we even have much more headroom. So let's just add a new project and let's call this demo. Right. So now that I have my Fender Studio loaded, let's load up the 3 files there. And then let's try and see if we can actually get our gain back. So let's drop the volume. -40 is the maximum. We can bounce this, Control B, and we are working in a 64-bit floating point. So we still have more headroom. So we can still drop it. And then we have our initial signal back. Weird enough. That's for the 32-bit file. Let's go for the 16-bit file. Let's drop the volume. And already there's not even enough headroom to actually play with. Weird enough. Like for the 16, immediately you start dropping the volume, you are just dropping the whole entire distorted signal. Now let me solo this and play it for the demonstration. We are getting our signal back, right? That's fine. Now let's solo the 16-bit file. We were not able to get our signals back, so safe to say we can delete it, but yeah. For 24 bits, let's see. Still the same. So, yeah, basically my conclusion is you can export the files when they are distorted in the signal internally, especially when there are no plugins on them. But make sure that when you are exporting a 32-bit floating point, or if you have a 64-bit floating point file, like in Studio One, for example. So in Fender Studio, let's say I'm supposed to delete all of this, and then I'm supposed to just export this one. Exports mixdown. I actually have the option to choose a 64-bit floating point, and that is a very good thing because this is way crazier than even the 32-bit, because in this one there is no way I'm going to even ever think of distorting the signal at all. So you get it. So that is to give a caution. Whenever you want to send me a mix or a project to work on, please as much as possible, give me enough headroom, give me 64-bit floating point files, or at least 32-bit floating point files, because that way I know I can actually cater for distortion, or like I have a wider dynamic range, a better depth to actually cure files that I presume may be distorted, or maybe unworkable, or maybe hard to work with. You get it? So yeah, that sums up my demonstration. I hope you learned something. If you still don't understand it, you can hit me up and then we'll talk more. It's your boy Sectormadeit. I'm out of here.